Hey, this is Ming-Fai Chan from Near at MasterCard office. We're here with Kenny from Ample.
That's right.
Kenny, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your company?
Sure thing. My name is Kenny Johns. I'm here with Ample, and we are tokenizing intellectual property for films, shows, and music.
That's perfect. I mean,
Yep.
that is amazing, actually.
Yep.
Because this is what we're in production. So this is.
That's
I feel like I know that's necessary. But
Right.
can you tell us, what made you what
Yeah,
made
kind of
you-
like why.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
exactly?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'll give you a really easy story. Like, one of our advisors worked with Justin Bieber on the track, and so he was a producer for the track. And after about 4 years, I think it was, right before the 4-year time limit went up, he got contacted by lawyers. He had no idea that he was owed 4 years of royalties from a Justin Bieber track that he wrote, right? So the lawyers contacted him and were like, hey, you have like 45 days and then you lose the claim to your rights, right? And your payments, and it was a pretty substantial figure, obviously, because it was a Bieber track.
Correct.
But he had to pay the lawyers a lot of money just to get the money that was owed to him.
Yeah.
And for me too, one of the reasons that I kind of started doing this is I was developing my own shows. I've ran shows before.
Right.
And I realized that you're always selling your ownership. So you don't even keep a small portion of your ownership most of the time. Even if you kept a small portion and you could track that over the course of your lifetime, you now have a legacy that you can pass on to your family, whatever else, and that goes on for your life. And you can actually prove how much you're owed, how much you own. A lot of times when you're working on projects, you're just cranking them out. So
100%.
Yes.
As those artists.
Exactly. So
Exactly.
Actually using blockchain as an engagement ledger that nobody can tamper
But
with.
since this is so new, we have to find specific lawyers that understand this space, though.
Oh, for sure.
Because I know, because I looked into it, because obviously with all like NFTs, like I was huge at NFTs, you could just just create an NFT and people could just copy it and put it on a blockchain and say it's yours.
Yes.
So this is again, I'm just relating
Sure, of
what
course.
we're doing. This is so new.
It's very new.
Yeah. So how let's just say that Justin Bieber, I really
Yeah.
like this because I'm in the entertainment business, so I really understand this, especially with the musical artists I work with and DJs. So how would that procedure work, and what would your company,
Sick. Yeah, for sure.
provide? What services will you guys provide?
Yeah, so one step back though to your main point of finding a legal process,
Right.
So currently a lot of DAOs in different areas aren't really recognized as legal entities,
Correct.
right? So it's pretty hard to actually house intellectual property in a DAO.
Right.
We've been working on that, and we kind of have a DAO trust mechanism process that we're working on.
Right.
But I think the simple process is essentially you assign the intellectual property, or you could assign the intellectual property to a DAO, and then that DAO could issue the NFTs for that intellectual property, and then the people that own those NFTs essentially now co-own that intellectual property, right?
Right.
And it doesn't have to work like that. I'm just using full-blown
Right.
intellectual property ownership, and then based on the amount of NFTs, tokens that you actually own for that project, that gives you that percentage of governance, that percentage of rights claims, residual claims, whatever, right? And then you can also decide what happens with that intellectual property in the future. So through the DAO, and then obviously that creates a whole on-chain ledger as well. So there's a little bit of a process there, but to actually make it kind of more legal. And then you would have to put that in a trust or something like that actually has a geographic jurisdiction locked in,
Right.
so that if anybody were to kind of come after your intellectual property, you would have a right to go after them. Because then that's going to be a thing with AI, as
Correct.
I'm sure you probably know.
No, yeah. That's the next question.
Yeah.
That's the next question that I want to ask with all this AI stuff.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I think
Who
AI is
owns
fascinating.
what?
Right. Well, right. So
Besides the blockchain, having it on the blockchain.
right. So essentially, right. You can tokenize the intellectual property, but even if you tokenize the intellectual property, how do you create sort of a provenance? How do you authenticate the very beginning of that chain, right? Chain of title, essentially, right? That's more of a film term, but the point is like you kind of walk through this process. You have to start somewhere, and I think if we start with KYC AML wallets, right? Like you know that this is a real person. Now you attach this ownership to that real person, then it's a provable. It's a essentially again it's a provable ledger that nobody can tamper with, so that when somebody uses an AI tool to kind of manipulate or duplicate your work, right? You have some metric that, or you have some valid proof, right? You have a title that couldn't have been messed with. So I think because AI tools, right? Like that's the other thing. Like who owns the actual intellectual property when you use that AI tool, right? And that's different for all the AI tools, right? So I think it's going to get complicated, but I think attaching or combining like tokenization of that intellectual property with the AI tooling at the beginning and determining who actually owns that and putting that metadata in that smart contract is the way to protect that.
I love it. Because again, I'm in the space, so I totally understand where you're.
I know that was like a little bit of like a process that I just went through.
No, this is amazing. Like, so what? But let me go back a little bit. So Ample, like, what does Ample do? Like, do you have that Justin Bieber account? Like, are you handling that right now?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a while, right? So I think and I've kind of remember even when like Netflix wasn't super popular early in my career,
right?
And I think that we're at that space again, like where you have the streaming TSPs and you have kind of like legacy Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. They're entrenched in years and hundreds of millions of dollars of deals. A-listers aren't going to they're not going to mess with their deals, So I think it's going to take a couple of like legit use cases and big kind of blockbuster hits from the Web3 space before anybody really pays too much attention to it. And by that time, there'll be so much momentum, and then people will see they get higher payouts. They'll see that ownership's measured and transferred. They'll see that they don't actually need all these middlemen, agencies, lawyers, and entities to get their payments on time, right? And validate that their ownership is real and true and what percentage it is. So I think it's going to take a couple big case studies. So I think we're still super early, and I think that it's going to be a while before we get Bieber types. But I think what's going to happen is younger creators are going to start creating this way because they know they're going to be more educated about, and I talk to a lot of them, right? Like they know that there's not a lot of hope in or opportunity in kind of the legacy way. Mm-hmm. But if you build an online community of 50,000 people, now you can actually create content. Now you could potentially have 50,000 marketers that have 50,000 networks, and you start kind of combining atomic networks.
Right.
Anyways, so hopefully creating like a flywheel effect, because most people have two issues: funding and marketing, right?
100%.
With their creative work.
What about again, coming back to your company?
Sure.
Ample comes in.
Right.
Can you tell us the process? Let's just say we have this interview, and then Ample comes in.
Yep. So
what would Ample do?
Yep. So essentially, what we'll do, and again, what you can offer is right now currently depends on where you are located in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Because like obviously with the states, you have certain regulations that you have to follow.
100%.
Right. So depending on where you are in the world, you have different opportunities, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just say you're a creator, you have a product that you want to pitch, and you're going to offer ownership, royalty rights, residuals, roles in a film, or credits or something like that, right? Whatever you offer, access, token gated, this and that, you decide, right? You create your pitch materials, right? And that can be a deck, that can be a lookbook. If you're a musician, that can be like a scratch track, right? Demo track. You upload that. You create the bullet points about like what your vision is, who the attached creators are, any relevant links, do you have communities, blah, 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 right? And essentially you go through the pitch portal process. And then Ample will have a DAO that acts as like an originals studio, right? Mm-hmm. And Ample can help fund that. Creators can help, their communities, public can help fund that. And then once it goes through that process, we kind of manage that process by kind of authenticating milestones on chain. So everybody can see what's actually happening. Distributions are made on chain. Everything's made on chain, which will actually protect a lot of people during production, because during production is when you have a lot of issues. And we'll even have like backup processes. But anyways, once you get through production, everything's met. You distribute, your content to our platform, so it streams on our platform. People can buy whatever NFTs you were offering.
Right.
It goes to other marketplaces as well, and other streaming platforms as well. And then the creators can basically manage all that. And streamers just stream as normal, so it'll be just like any other regular DSP. And then fans, collectors, and backers can engage as well, right? So they can back a project, they can buy the NFT directly from the same site they stream. So you watch an awesome movie, you listen to a dope track, and you're like, cool, I want to own part of that. Now you can, or be a part of that creator's success. Again, and it depends where you are geographically located, but you get the point.
Yeah. Do you think today Near and MasterCard, gonna have some value to help Ample?
I hope so. I
Yeah.
mean, well, I can tell you, I can say, like, Near has been awesome on our end. Like,
Yeah.
Even being here, the friendships and connections that I've made in the whole Near ecosystem,
Right.
it's been super valuable. I don't know about MasterCard yet, but maybe. I mean,
Yo, I just found out that MasterCard they're tapped in the space.
I did too, actually.
Yeah,
Like,
I just found
I
out.
was just having a chat with the guy from
Yeah,
MasterCard, and he
yeah.
was like really into like everything that we were doing, and like
Yeah.
I was kind of actually surprised. I mean,
I'm
but I just
surprised.
haven't had the conversation. But yeah,
Right.
it's super
This is
dope to see it.
amazing. So where could they find you at this church? Like, where could they find you at?
Yeah, sure. So you can find us on Twitter. We're just ample_stream.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just type ample stream and we'll
Right.
pop up. And then our site is ample.stream. And then you'll also be able to kind of walk around the app and start seeing like what the V1's going to look like.
Amazing. I'm excited for this because, I'm in this space.
Yeah,
So
I
we
know.
have to-
I'm super stoked. Like,
so
connecting.
this is
people.
amazing. Yeah, this is amazing because I've been figuring out ways. Hey, how can we? Like, I have a lot of my own content out there, and then
Yep.
there's no besides my NFTs obviously, but
Right.
there's no really a source of like who owns what and
Well, and I think that we're in the phase where everybody's
Yeah.
testing this all out,
Correct.
right? Like we're seeing what works, what doesn't work, what
Yeah.
challenges we're gonna have. There's the multi-chain stuff as well, right?
Correct.
So like that's why we're coming in and trying to create like essentially the distribution back end,
Right.
So people don't have to worry about that, and
Right.
they just do what they do. They create, they distribute, they collect money. They do their thing, and we make sure everything else. And Keepom actually, who's here, I don't know if you're talking to them, but
yeah.
they're gonna help us. They're gonna help us make all that onboarding process super simple,
This
so
is
you won't
amazing.
even need to know what a wallet is, right?
Yeah.
To engage.
This is amazing. What's next though? Like besides like what's next for you?
So next we'll be conforming our first contract to basically the Near ecosystem, and because Near just launched the whole Boss campaign, so essentially like we're conforming our contracts so that we can distribute on Near's partner marketplaces and throughout the ecosystem in general. We got a bunch of partnerships lined up. And then after that, we'll bridge out to a couple like EVM partners and stuff that we've been working on over the last couple of months.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch.
For
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you, Near and MasterCard for having us.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you being here.
All right.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. man.
Yeah, let's get it.
Thank you so much.